to show you guys one of my favorite toilets. I've probably installed 100 of these things, and it's my go-to. It's what I recommend to all my clients, and I've really never had an issue with them. They're really simple to install. You need a limited amount of tools to install them, but it's the American Standard Cadet 3 models. I just really find them to be a fairly reasonable price, but also really high quality. Never had a real issue with them that I can speak of. So I'm going to show you how to install, show you how easy this is to install. So let's just get this out of the box and get started. And this is a tall height. I believe that's what I got. But I mean, it really is better to have the taller heights these days.
I noticed your haircut.
What's that?
I noticed your haircut. It was so bad before.
It's pretty bad. Okay, so within the package has everything we really need. It even has a tool to mount my bolts on, which is really nice. And I'll show you here in a bit. I love the caps because there's really no need to cut any of the bolts. Their cap system makes it really simple. Toilet. And then this is the wax ring it comes with. Again, I'll explain that here in a minute. I don't really use these because you're better off with what I'm going to be using here shortly. So real simple, just use that rubber gasket it comes with. Now, when you're looking at toilets, or if you're looking to replace your own, pay attention to the distance of your toilet flange. Come up. Always pay attention to the distance between your toilet flange and the wall, because they make toilets in different rough-in measurements. So they go 10 inches, 12 inches is the most common, and then you have a 14-inch rough-in. So we've got 11 to the base trim, so like 11.5 to the actual wall. So this is a 12-inch rough-in that you can use. Now the American Standards, in my experience, the smallest it can go down to for this tank, and that's really what they change. When you get a 14-inch rough-in, the tank sits back further. The 12-inch is kind of standard, and then the 10-inch, it's like a really narrow tank. So that's what gives you that distance difference between the wall. But in my experience, about 11.25 is about the minimum width from the toilet to the wall. And that's going to make this toilet tank completely tight to the wall. Anything less than that, you're going to have to get a 10-inch rough-in. I mean, I'm measuring off the base trim, so I'm going to add a 1/2 inch to the thickness of my base trim. So really, it's about the wall thickness, because that's where the tank comes up against the wall. So like I said, right now I'm at 11 inches center, so that's really 11.5 inches. And so I'm probably only going to have about a 1/2 inch gap between my tank and my back wall. But a lot of the older homes, they used to have, well, it depends on how old your homes are, but a lot of them had tanks that were mounted to the wall, and those were always like 14-inch rough ends. So again, just pay attention to what you have existing. You should be able to find that pretty easily once you remove the toilet, or even when you have the toilet in place, you can just measure to where the bolts are, and that'll give you an indication of what kind of size you're going to need. So these are just the nuts it comes with to attach the tank. And then these just need to be hand tightened. They give you this little tool, which is really nice, just the nut driver for it. So you don't need to have your own socket wrench or anything. You can just use this tool to tighten it. So these bolts inside the tank, you can see have rubber gaskets on them. You just want to see those kind of squeeze down. When a toilet leaks, it's mainly because of the way the wax ring was installed, whether the toilet actually moved or not, if it rocked or anything like that. That's usually the reason they leak. But usually the problem ends up where the toilet just keeps running. So the rubber gasket, the cheap rubber gaskets they put in the cheaper toilets just don't last that long. This is made by Fluid Master, the inner side guts of the American Standard. So, you know, that's a pretty reputable company, and that should really last a long time.
Billy Hippa said, incredible that Home Depot charges upwards of a minimum $200 for a toilet installation.
$200
for a toilet installation.
You know, I was thinking about that yesterday. You know, as far as, so this bathroom, if you've been following along, I've been trying to keep at the 10 grand level. That didn't happen. There was a lot of extras with the plumbing and electrical that had to be moved around. So we're approximately about 11.5. And as you can see, I did a fiberglass shower, and that's the way we were able to keep that cost down. And one of the core reasons, not just material-wise, because obviously the fiberglass unit is basically half the cost of what a waterproofing system for a tiled shower would be. But it really comes down to the tradesmen who are out there working and the time they have to allot. Not the time that you're in their house, but the time that they have to allot to take care of your job. So putting in a toilet, I mean, how many houses can you go in a day? I mean, maybe 4 homes you can go to and change out a toilet. You're going to take 2 hours each. They might only be in your home as fast as I'm going to be installing this. I mean, this is, you know, if I keep talking, it's going to take me longer, but 25 minutes to install this. I would charge $200 too, because the running around, you have to account for that. So it's just opportunity cost, honestly. So, all right, baby, you want to stand in the shower so you can see. Okay, so it comes with the wax ring. So these are not terrible. They're just not the highest quality type of wax ring. You can see that they're kind of really thin layered, kind of cheap. All intents and purposes, it would work great for this. You can see my toilet flange is just about flush with my flooring. So a standard wax ring is going to work just fine on that. But this just isn't a really high quality wax ring. And these days I'm just upgrading to foam gaskets. I find them to be, you know, I mean, only time will tell how long these things last, but it might, you know, they just seem like they're going to last a really long time because they're made out of foam. One nice thing about it is when you go to set it, if you misplace it or if you screw up, not a big deal, because it's not going to smash down like a wax ring would do. If you set the toilet down wrong or mess up and you line up with the bolts, you just screwed up this wax ring and you have to get another one. Whereas this, you can keep placing it until you get it right. And you know, I just don't see how this is going to deteriorate. You know, I think this is going to last a really long time. So I've been moving on to the foam gaskets. Now these are like $10, so they're like twice as much as what a wax ring.
And they're available at your Amazon store, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
We'll link it.
Yes. Thanks, babe.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear.
Is that any good?
I don't know. It takes a minute for people to get on.
Okay. All right. So,
okay.
Yeah, just a matter of installing this over top of the bolts. Pretty easy.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Loud and clear. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
So then, these are the bolts. Did you get them?
What's that?
Were you able to see exactly what I did there?
Go ahead and do it again.
No, so this is what's nice about it. Is like you know, if I didn't have that sitting down right, I could just take the toilet back up. Or even better, if you're in a home that you only have one toilet and you're renovating a bathroom and you need to keep reinstalling a toilet each day, this is a great way to do it. Is use one of those foam gasket rings, because you can just take it off and put it right back on. So, but yeah, this is always the nervous part about with a wax ring. You know, I have to make sure that I'm nice and centered above those bolts and I set it down properly. Because if I don't, then the wax ring gets smushed, in the wrong direction, and then I don't have a good seal. But you know, when you use these foam gaskets, man, it just makes it so much easier, and I don't have to worry about it. So it just sets right down on top of there. What I love about this American Standard is these bolt covers. You could just use your hands to tighten them. Really, really simple. I wish all the manufacturers would do this. I'm not sure why they don't. But man, it really makes it, I mean, not that screwing a nut on's that difficult. It's just anything that can speed up anything a couple of minutes makes a big difference. And I find, you know, some people actually crank down too tightly with the nuts, where this, I mean, you're only hand tight. So whatever it is, so yeah, just hand tighten them. And you want to make sure that there's no rock. So this is really important, because if you have a lot of rocking movement in any way, you're going to, I mean, the foam gasket's probably unlikely you're going to break the seal because it just has so much volume under there. But the movement is usually what ends up being a problem, and then you end up with a leak at some point. So always check how it, so now you can see I'm about a ½ inch behind my wall. So like I said, my rough in on this one was 11.5 inches from this back wall. So I still have almost a ½ inch of room. So I probably almost could get to that 11-inch mark and still be able to install the toilet. So then the caps, there's no cutting of bolts, slip it right over top, really easy. Like I said, the only thing you need is a supply line. And so this is a 12-inch one. You know, that's the one thing I wanted to mention. When I install my valves for the toilet, it's always on the left side. Okay, so that's number one. Two, I go 8 inches off the floor so that it doesn't protrude with my base trim. And I, from the center of the toilet over about 8 inches. So 8 inches up, 8 inches over. And your supply line should just be able to use a 12-inch supply line, and you don't have a, you know, huge curly Q of supply on it. So you can see where this is at. It says, you know, that's just about perfect. There's really no extra line here, because who really wants to see your supply line? I don't think anybody really likes seeing that. So you can minimize the size. No Teflon tape. You don't really need that because of the gaskets that, or the rubber gaskets that are in these supply lines. So don't worry about Teflon taping them. You can for extra insurance if you really want to. But I'd say you don't want to over tighten these. You could over tighten this and then end up breaking this. So trying to go snug and then just a little bit further. So let's turn this on. While that's filling up, we'll just get our toilet seat on here. Okay, so sometimes you have to adjust this. You can see how this is, the water line's all the way up at the top of my fill valve. So we need to just go counterclockwise to basically get this float. Or I'm sorry, let me just see where that goes. Yeah, I'm sorry. This has to go down in order for it to stop the water from flowing up. So you want to go clockwise and bring this float down a little bit so it doesn't go above that line. Now this is by plumbing code. So the International Plumbing Code does state to silicone the bottom of your toilet. Now I get a lot of hate for this sometimes. A lot of the plumbers agree, some disagree. And a lot of the disagreement has to do with if you caulk the toilet, then you don't know if it's leaking, and then you ruin your subfloor. I think my argument on that is that probably if it's leaking, no matter what, it's probably leaking long enough that's going to be a problem. So to solve the issue, or solve, you know, the two arguments on that, is just to leave an area in the back of the toilet unsiliconed so that if it did leak, you'd be able to see that water from underneath of there. But I think for sanitary reasons, and that's probably the reason why it's in the code, is to silicone it, but it also makes sure that it also kind of makes the toilet more stable and fastened. So I think it does two things there, but for me, I think it's the sanitary thing that makes a big difference. Any old toilet I picked up, it's just all grody and nasty under there. So if they would have just siliconed it, then you would have had no issue. So I'm just going to go all the way around. I've got some matching silicone. You want to use 100% silicone. And this always used to be a scary thing for me right here because I didn't want to smear it all over the floor. But I took a course, or I took a test for tile installation. And any tile installer, I highly recommend getting your certification. It's a certified tile installer, CTI. And you know, one of their big things, you learn everything about tiling on how to make sure you have the proper coverage, to the proper gaps that you have in the corners, just doing all the TCNA requirements for tile installation. So it's just kind of testing your ability. And it is a very difficult test. But they, you know, what they require are like 1/4-inch gaps in the corner of the tile work. And I actually ended up failing that part of the test because my joints were just so ugly looking. And I didn't really, it wasn't until recently, or till last, 3 years ago, that all you have to do is use a little bit of Windex to spray the silicone, and it won't smear onto the tile work or the surface that you're installing this with. And so it's really as simple as that. Just spray the whole joint, and then you'll be able to get a nice caulk joint all the way around. It doesn't smear onto the floor, doesn't smear onto the toilet. It just makes it a real nice joint. So a little small tip there, but boy, it used to be painful when I didn't used to do that, because you'd be just there forever just trying to stop it from smearing.
Why do you use that Windex in particular, though?
The vinegar one I just use because it's clear. I've had issues with the blue dye, and that's not on the floor here, but I've had problems with the blue dye staining the grout or the tile. The tile. Yeah. It's really annoying because like once you spray this on here, you can't just go with the towel and wipe it off, because then you're going to smear your caulk joint. You have to the Windex kind of stays on the floor a little bit, so that dye was kind of getting into things, so it really kind of created a problem for me. That's why I always, and plus the vinegar, great for epoxy haze removal, or any type of even grout or thin set. It's not tremendous for that, but it's really good for the epoxy haze and stuff, just using a little bit of vinegar. So there you go. Now they have a joint there. Just make sure everything's flushing well. And then again, just double checking that tank level. So really easy. Highly recommend the American Standard Cadet 3s. I don't know if Amazon sells them, but if they do, I'll have it on a story shortly where you can go straight to my Amazon store and purchase them. But yeah, thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, we will post this for sure.